Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Hoof Podcast on this beautiful Thursday evening. We are back after the NFL releases their schedule, so we have a lot of content to get to tonight. Anthony, what's happening, man? I haven't talked to you since the draft.
I know, yeah, right?
Back and forth, but like actual face-to-face.
Yeah, we're back on here. It's exciting. So, yeah, I mean, schedule release, lots to talk about, good things happening. The hype is always real. The NFL loves to generate as much hype. It was supposed to be last week, right? We were going to do our episode last week. My family all got sick. You can still hear I'm a little nasally tonight, but feeling much better. So we had to delay last week. No schedule release. Now we got the full schedule and feeling better. So at least we're gearing toward the right direction. And now we have our opponents in front of us. Week 1 is on the calendar. Coaches are going to love that. But it's NFL dominates the entire calendar year somehow. And this is just another piece.
Yeah, we're sitting here in May, mid-May, and we're still talking about the NFL, right? And it seems like it's by design. They release this news, by design, right? So we keep talking about it all year long. And it's just, we love it so much. It's fun for us, right? So, whatever they're doing well, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's tap in. So we saw the NFL schedule and a couple takeaways, right? A couple changes. So Netflix is going to have a couple games this year. It looks like Christmas. December 25th, which is a Wednesday, week 17, Chiefs and Steelers at 1, Ravens and Texans at 4:30. It does say here Netflix will stream at least one holiday game in 2025 and 2026 as well. I'm actually okay with that because I have Netflix. I know. Yeah. I think most people do, right?
Right.
That one's a little less painless than like Peacock.
Peacock original, or like one of those. It's like, okay, well, I pay for those channels, but I don't pay for Peacock. Come on,
right
now I got to get that one. First, it was like Amazon Prime. It's like, okay, some people have that, but do they really? Now you buy it because the Thursday games, all of them are going to be on there. So you're like, okay, it's worth my investment up front to do that. But it's those weird stray ones that are like, why is this on some obscure network? It seems like they have to get every streaming service involved now to maximize the dollar, of course, but go to the highest bidder, and the highest bidder is going to be somebody different for each piece because they can't afford to do all of them, right? So it's interesting how it's been working out. But at least with Netflix, like you said, most of us have Netflix, so that's an easy one to be like, okay, we're not used to watching live stuff on Netflix.
I'm already paying for that, right?
The Tom Brady roast maybe, but not much, live stuff going on Netflix. So this will be a shift for them. They're basically just becoming more like cable TV, because I hate, me personally, on Netflix, what I hate is when they do the releases, like, oh, we'll give you 2 episodes now and then 2 episodes in a week or 2. It's like, no, that's not what Netflix is. You are a binge network. Let me binge. Let me watch the entire season.
My ass the entire weekend and watch this whole show.
Exactly.
All 9. Yeah,
if I want to suspense, I still watch cable. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been on Apple TV, and that's how they do everything. Yeah. Every Friday there's a new episode. So it's like I've been and they've released a whole bunch of new shows, right? Like it was like Masters of the Air, and then there's Franklin. It's about Benjamin Franklin. So like just been watching shows on Apple TV for since January.
It's so, like
I definitely hate when they do that, but still engage you.
Yeah, that's it, because Apple TV makes sense to do that. They're more like HBO in my mind, where HBO is an actual, it started as a channel on TV. So their shows are more like, the typical 1 episode every week type of thing. But Netflix is like, you were literally invented to let me binge watch. Yeah. So don't take it to
right. And I hate when the NFL puts games on, because it's, you want to see it live, right? Because you got to go to work the next day. And that's what I love to do, is just talk about football with my buddies at work. So you can't watch it the next day, It's too late. Plus it's on usually during the day or something. But
you're going to see the highlights. You're going to watch ESPN or something. Yeah.
When it's on Peacock, you have to add it. You have to sign up for the account, right? And it's not the problem is it's like $6 or $7, right? That's really not the problem. The problem is I'm going to forget to cancel it, and I'm going to pay $30 for 3 months or something, right?
Yep, that's
just another thing I have to do. I have to sign up. Okay, I'll do that. No problem. I'll pay the $6, no problem. It's the canceling it, which is a pain, most of the time. Some are better than others when you go to cancel your subscription. But that's the problem I have with just adding one game on Peacock. Like, come on, I don't get that. But yeah, that's Netflix games. Looks like that's gonna be a thing the next few years. It does say one holiday game, so it'll be what's that?
Interesting.
Christmas. What other holidays are in the NFL schedule?
Those are the two big ones. I mean, unless you're talking like New Year's Day, but I don't think
Friday when you
be
count.
A thing.
I mean, you can expect that in the future.
It's different. The Black Friday game is, a new adjustment as well.
Right. So they're actually doing that again. That's on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime also carrying all the Thursday night games exclusively on Prime. The Black Friday game this year will be Kansas City and the Raiders. And I kind of didn't get into the Black Friday thing last year. I think the Jets played last year, but I ended up not watching that game. So, if the Bills ever did that, obviously we'd watch it. But these other teams like Raiders, Chiefs, I think I already know who's going to win that.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah. So
you're like, it's not even worth my time.
Yeah. Let's see what else here. Thanksgiving games. The Bears at Detroit.
Some good ones.
Giants at Dallas. Miami at Green Bay. All different channels. That's pretty standard. The only thing that's different is it's called the Madden Thanksgiving Celebration, which I like. I like that.
Yeah. I mean,
put
why
Madden's
not
name on it? Yeah,
there you go.
I'm into that.
Now, 3 games have become more standard.
Right.
Thanksgiving is a holiday built around football, so we like that, right? Most people know to work those games in around their dinner time, and it's the Christmas Day games that we're going to have to get used to now, right? That's definitely something new. And I was just saying, usually I spend Christmas Day with my in-laws and they don't watch TV. So how am I going to watch the games with no TV? I'm not used to planning around.
Yeah.
Watching
we have family all over New York State. So we're usually driving that day.
Yeah.
So, the Bills don't play that day, so again, probably we'll miss those games, but if the Bills did, we'd have to work around that, right? So just adds more frustration.
Right, exactly. And I'm glad we don't this year, at least, maybe.
Right.
And there's only, what did the Bills get, 5 primetime games this year instead of the max of 6? So a little bit of relief, I guess you could say there.
Yeah. Yep. And only 7 1 p.m. games. Sunday at 1.
That's pretty good. That's more than last year. So
yeah. But still, it's not a lot, right? We're used to having a lot of those, and
that's right. That's our comfort zone. Yeah. For sure. As Bills Mafia, anyway. The team is probably used to playing whenever, but we as fans, we're most comfortable in that 1 p.m. time slot for sure on Sunday. Yeah. So it's nice to have a few more of those this year. Last year was just a cluster of all over the place when we were playing.
Right. It's like that again this year, and we'll get into that here in a second, but. Just a couple other facts here. Okay, so 5 international games, all regular season games, 3 in the UK, 1 in Germany, and 1 in Brazil. And it's the first ever NFL game in South America. And it happens to be, let's see, so the season kicks off September 5th, September 6th, which is a Friday.
Yeah.
Is the Brazil game.
And
I think it was the Packers.
Packers at Eagles. Yep.
Eagles, Packers. Yeah. Yep. So it's, again, 2 good teams, That's a pretty good matchup. It's week 1. I don't like how they did week 1. It feels to me like it's, a slap in the face to the season ticket holders. You're so anxious to go to the game, been missing this, right? And now it's in Brazil, week 1.
Well, I mean, you got a chance to, if you can go international, right? I know a lot of Bills fans went for the, England game last year, and that made a trip of it. When you're going to have that. So something in Brazil, maybe that's a little different than going to England for sure, but I'm sure it'll be a great time. They're going to have a lot of fun with it, I'm sure. And obviously the NFL, it's all about the money, baby. So they're looking to expand to a new market. It's going to be, I'm sure politically Brazil has its issues, but I'm sure they're going to, work around that and make it beneficial to them financially.
I think it's a great place to visit. It's going to be a great experience. I mean, there's a lot of people are passionate about the NFL in Brazil. Like Germany, like we saw Germany, and you could tell the fans are really engaged. Yeah, it's very fun, right?
They sing.
I think you'll have that, but when you talk about this, the season ticket holders, like how many of them actually travel to the international game? I know they can go, but it's got to be a really small percentage, right? So like the majority of the season ticket holders kind of get screwed.
And what you pay for season tickets these days is
the price didn't go down or anything, right?
No, it's definitely going up.
They have the option to sell their tickets, and they probably won't have any problem selling them, right?
Sure.
So it's beneficial in that way, but like you pay the premium price to go to the game and experience it, right? You don't pay the premium price to sell them and get some money back. You know what I mean?
And lose a home game, right? Yeah. So that's tough.
Yeah.
When you're the home team. So
But along the lines of the international games, the Jaguars again playing 2 regular season games back to back in London.
That was probably the biggest surprise for me that the NFL did this again, right? Last year was kind of their test. Okay, we'll see how this works. We'll let the same team stay for a week, play again. No, they did that last year. I said at the beginning of the year, this is already a disadvantage. But okay, you want to try it and see how it goes. You saw how it went. It was an extreme advantage for the Jaguars to have been there for a week. They were not tired. The other team, which happened to be our Bills last year, was at an extreme disadvantage, and the Jaguars won. And now they do it again this year. So I'm surprised that the NFL didn't look at that and say, you know what, that wasn't a great idea. Let's not do that again. Let's kind of even the playing field. Instead, they said, we're going to leave the Jaguars there for another full week, giving them another full advantage over their second opponent. Luckily for the Bills, that second opponent happens to be the New England Patriots. So we're okay with that. Like, yeah, go ahead and beat the Patriots. That helps us. But just overall, it doesn't look good to me on the NFL. It's like, dude, you tried that last year and it was stupid then, and you learned that it was stupid, and yet you're doing it again this year. Why? Like, I don't get it at all. Yeah. Other than, they want more exposure for the Jaguars in the NFL in general, instead of it just being flying in for the weekend or staying for the game. There's a team there for 2 full weeks. So they're engaging with the community for 2 full weeks and getting exposure for that entire time. Yeah.
But again, how many people who live in Jacksonville are going to be going to London for 2 whole weeks?
I think that's really become England's team though at this point, right? Like they have a game there every year and 2 games now for the last 2 years there. So yeah, it's basically their home, even though technically their first game, the Jaguars' first game in what week is it? I forget.
It's week 6 and week 7. So the first one's Chicago, Sunday 9:30.
So technically,
second one's New England.
That first game too. Remember the Bills? It was a home game for the Bills last year too. Home game against the Jaguars, who basically play there every year. They have the biggest fan base there by far. And now it's the same thing for the Bears, who play the Jaguars in the first week there. The Bears are the home team, but we all know that Jacksonville has the fans there, right?
Right. They're there. I feel like at the NFL, it's an experiment, right? Is it better to leave teams there 2 weeks? Is it possible to have an international team? Can we move the Jaguars to London and integrate them in the league and the travel and all the logistics?
Look, they can say whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. I don't know why they lie, but they do, right? The NFL is stupid in that way, right? They think that the public is dumb when it comes to what the NFL wants, likes, and needs. But all they care about is money. That just like anybody, any other business. It's money, money, money. Money is what matters. They don't care about player safety. We know that. They don't care about any of this other stuff. We know that. They care about money. What's going to maximize the money? And obviously, they looked at this test last year and said, you know what? Leaving the team there for 2 weeks generated more money. So that's what matters. We're going to leave another team there for 2 weeks because that's the best thing to do ultimately and for the league. And it works. And everybody benefits from that around the NFL. So that's why they're doing it again. And it's, I don't know why they don't just come out and say that. But instead they say, well, it's an experiment. We wanted to see how this goes. No, how it went last year. And obviously it was beneficial, and that's why you're doing it again. So don't try and make us look stupid. We're not. We get it. You're making money.
Right. Now, if you're a Jaguars fan, are you worried that they're going to move to London in the near future?
I think you've been worried about that for the last 10 years. So there's no push yet, but it has to happen, right? Whatever ends up happening, either they move the Jaguars officially to London, or it's like some type of switch over where they're like, okay, the franchise moves and changes name a la, Houston or something like that, where it's, okay, we're moving this team, and now it's going to be the London Eyes or whatever, So
Right.
yeah. So I mean, yes, I do think eventually there will be a team in London, a franchise in London. It's just a matter of, is it moving a franchise or trying to expand somehow?
Well, I remember when the Bills played in Toronto. I was much younger then, but you're a little worried. Like they're testing this out, right? Well, what's the fan base in Toronto? Like, is there a possibility that they move there? Ultimately, it comes down to what the owner wants to do, right? And the Bills really lucked out by getting the Pagulas, but we all remember the next bidder was, a Toronto-based team, and that they very well could have moved to Toronto. It was that close, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And if Terry Pegula didn't exist, I think it's very possible the Bills would be in Toronto by now.
Yeah.
And I think the Jaguars owner, is it Shad Khan? I think he's very financially motivated, right? So if you're looking at the numbers and, the bottom line, it's very much London's definitely the better option for the future. It's just the logistical problems, right? So I think that's what this is all about. And I know the players hate it. I know there's a lot of negative stuff about the travel. Can they solve that problem? I mean, if you've had, Irsay, the Colts owner, talk about, can we get a Concorde airplane? It's faster. You can fly from LA to London in less time. So it's these discussions have been happening. But I don't see a logistical solution to this, honestly.
Yeah, that's the tough part. And I think that's why it hasn't happened yet, is there's a lot that has to go into that move. Officially having a team play 8 games there a year minimum, that's a lot for travel. I mean, 8 different teams.
And if you're the Jaguars, you're gonna have to go to LA. I mean, you're gonna have to travel more than any other team, right? So that's also a disadvantage.
Yes, exactly.
As well as an advantage.
Yeah.
So interesting, doing this experiment again, but definitely a talking point mid-season there. Last point before we get into the Bills schedule and the kickoff game. Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels face each other week 8. Thought that was an interesting tidbit. Bears, Commanders. This should be a fun one. That's the only thing I really took away from the whole schedule. Kickoff game. The 2 most valuable players in the NFL face off. Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes in 2022. Lamar Jackson last year. So what do you think about that? Like Baltimore Chiefs, did the NFL get this one right?
Sure, that's a good matchup for opening day. I think it's good enough, but I think the hype for the Ravens for me right now is going to be a little overblown going into this season. So they did what they had to last year, but again, that whole division fell apart. So I'm not as high on Baltimore. I think that it's a good matchup for the Super Bowl winner, which is what the Super Bowl winner kind of earns going into the next season. You want it to be an entertaining game, but they are the Super Bowl champs. They get to celebrate that. And, they'll probably end up getting a win, unfortunately. So it'll be entertaining though. So I'm happy it's not like a throwaway game. It's not the Broncos or, the Raiders or something ridiculous. Right. It's a good matchup. So a meaningful matchup, certainly.
Yeah, and if Zay Flowers doesn't fumble the football, I think the Ravens really could have won that game, right? The championship game. So it'll be a fun matchup. It's in Arrowhead, right? So that's a, tough place to play. Taylor Swift will probably be there again, right? That whole thing will probably carry into this season if it lasts that long.
Oh, yeah.
So, so a lot of media hype there. I just think Baltimore's a really balanced team. They're good all over the field. I think they do have an advantage in that. Right. I think Kansas City is going to be kind of trying some new things, new receivers. Rashee Rice not going to be there. Probably going to rely on Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy. I mean, so it might take a little time to gel, right? Usually we see Kansas City start off slow. But it's a fun matchup, and I think the NFL got it right overall. Would have been fun if the Bills had the kickoff game in Kansas City. That would be fun. But they wanted it in Arrowhead, right? This year it's in Buffalo.
Yes, right. I was going to say we play them at home for the first time ever, basically. Yeah. So yeah, it should be the Super Bowl champs should play at home. Yeah. So that's expected.
All right. So you had a chance to look at the Bills schedule. Anything come out before we get into each game and kind of make our predictions here?
Yeah, like in terms of what, like
tough stretches. I think last year when they played Philadelphia, Dallas, Kansas City, it was a really tough stretch. It was also late in the season. And the Bills had a rough start, so
I would say
it's really important. But anything like that in this
two
schedule?
Things that stood out to me immediately: the 3-game stretch rate. I forget what weeks it is, but it's
Kansas City, right?
No, Houston. Oh my God, I got to pull up the whole
it's week
schedule now.
5. Week 5 at Houston.
Right. So that's
before that's Baltimore, right?
Correct. So there's 3 road games in a row. They're all road games, which makes it particularly difficult. Yeah. At the Ravens, at the Texans, and at the Jets, right? So at least with the Jets, that's maybe an easier one for us. But to have a stretch, of 3 road games where the Ravens, not a pushover team, the Texans, obviously going to be an emotional game, but also a good team as well, and then a Jets where it's a division game that matters a lot. That's a heavy hitting 3-game stretch right there for me.
And 2 of the 3 are primetime games, right? National audiences.
Yes. And
so
again, all on the road. So 3 road games, to me, that's where I was like, dang, I wish it was 2 and 1, like 2 away, 1 home, just to break up that. But that was certainly a stretch that stood out to me, and we'll go over in detail. But the other stretch was not playing New England until the end of the season, and then getting the Jets at home in New England, which I think
3 divisional games in a row.
Yeah, right at the end. And I think
that could swing a lot of things.
That's favorable to the Bills, actually. Like, great, we play New England twice. There's no way we shouldn't be favored over them. You can argue, okay, rookie quarterback gets a lot of time, but it doesn't matter. We should be favored to beat New England. And to me, that's a more favorable stretch to end the season, right? Just like last year when you needed must-win games, usually at the end of the season, you want it to be favorable matchups. And, we were able to do that even till the end against Miami when it mattered most. Now, if it comes down to it, New England, Jets, New England, Bills should win all 3 of those games, really. So I was happy to see, okay, they waited until the end of the season. This seems like an easier stretch, but also, like, why don't they should have spread New England out again. I don't like playing the same team twice in 3 weeks. That's, to me, is like unnecessary. But
it's a whole different story if those 2 games are Miami, right?
Yeah.
So now that's a really tough stretch.
You're like, what the heck? Yeah. Exactly.
But
exactly.
I feel like the Bills kind of lucked out getting New England in that scenario instead of Miami or the Jets. But yeah, three divisional games right in a row, that could really swing who wins the division, which impacts the playoffs. So that'll be really, those are meaningful games just for that, right? Just because they're divisional and late in the season. But one stretch I noticed, week 11 through 15, you're at home, you play Kansas City, 425, bye week, at home again, San Francisco, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both Super Bowl teams. And then at LA, and then at the Detroit Lions, right?
Yeah.
And none of those are Sunday at 1. There's 3 that are 425. One's an 8:20 game. That's a tough stretch, right?
Certainly. I like that the bye week is mixed in there, right? So you get the Kansas City game. That's going to be an emotional, heavy, prepared, it's not prime time, but it's 425. You get the bye week to prepare for having San Francisco at home, right? And that's going to be a good matchup in terms of entertainment value, obviously. But just having that extra time to prepare, I love that. The Rams, although I think they're a good team, I'm not as worried about. Sean McVay, that team's always going to be ready, but it's not like I don't see that as one of those heavy emotional or important games. If the Bills lose that game, it's not going to be the end of the world. But I still think matchup wise, it's favorable for the Bills. And then you have the Lions, obviously a way competitive team, in the NFC Championship last year. So you get the Super Bowl matchup and the other NFC Championship team in 4 weeks. That's a tough one. I actually really want to go to that Lions game. I'm hoping to be able to go to that game just because I have a friend who's a Lions fan, and we have been both fans for life. And the fact that our franchises have both been miserable for the majority of our lives. And now basically for the first time ever, they're both competitive. They're both expected to win their division. That's where, we both definitely want to try and get to that game. So I'm hoping road wise, that's a game I can make it to. And I'd imagine a lot of Bills Mafia will make that trip. So that should be a fun game. Certainly competitive. And yeah, that'll be a big one. Another one that's, because it's NFC, I don't see it as heavily weighted as that stretch I talked about at the beginning where it's all AFC teams, right? You need to win those games. Those matter. I mean, every game matters, but AFC obviously carries with it higher implications than NFC matchups.
Yeah, for sure. And as competitive as the AFC is, every AFC game is going to matter, right? So that's definitely important.
Mm-hmm.
All right, how you feeling about the Bills? Like, a lot of changes in the offseason. When we go through these picks, are you good? I mean, I know you're going to be high on the Bills as always, but
that people said that last year, and I predicted us to have 12 wins, and people thought I was crazy. They're like, "Oh, we're going to have 15 wins." I'm like, "No, we have a really difficult schedule. 12 wins is probably where we're going to be at." If you look through it, that gives us 5 games of leeway. I'm pretty comfortable with that. And it turned out I was one off.
Do you think this year the Bills can be a 12-win team?
Could be, absolutely. There's nothing preventing this team from being a 12-win team. Absolutely. Certainly. Look at the schedule. You can go through 1 or 2 games here or there. If they win those coin flip games, if they win 2 out of 3 of those coin flip games, that's 12 wins right there easily. So I'd say
do you think that's is it because the schedule's lighter, or do you think it's more the personnel still good?
Yeah, I just think it's the favorability of the matchups. If you go through unbiasedly and say if this game were played right now, who's expected to win, the Bills are going to come out on that more than the other teams, in at least 10 of them. And there's going to be a few that are like, well, I could go either way, Detroit or the Bills. Pretty evenly matched, right? In terms of unbiased, well, I like this player, I like that player, I like this position. You flip a coin, right? And if the Bills win that one, okay, there's 11, and pick another matchup here. But those are the games that ultimately, will send you to 12, 13 wins or beyond. And really, in today's NFL, you're talking about a league that has more and more parity, right? So there's going to be closer. There's no 15-win teams that, march their way into the playoffs anymore. That doesn't happen, right? Rarely. It's more about like teams that have hot stretches in the beginning versus the end, and teams that make the playoffs, and we're seeing more and more teams with 9 wins, 10 wins making the playoffs at the tail end. Granted, they expanded the playoffs, but now there's not even the number 1 seeds the last few years have had not as many wins. And that's because there is competitiveness across the NFL. And it shows. So you get 12 wins. Not only are you winning your division, you were competitive for the 1 seed at 12 wins. So that's pretty good to me.
Yeah, and it again, also makes
another coin. You win a game you're not supposed to around there, and there you go.
It also makes the divisional matchups much more important, right? If you look at the AFC North last year, Baltimore really won those matchups and ended up at the top. Whereas there's a lot of good teams in that division who were close. Obviously, Cleveland made it in, but Pittsburgh made it in as well. But they were 9-7 at the end of the year. So it's, those games are very important. You win those games, you get the higher seeds, right? So I think it adds, a lot more excitement to the matchups, right, throughout the season. And I think that's what the NFL is going for. All right, let's jump into it. All right, week number 1. Arizona Cardinals, September 8th, 1:00 game in Buffalo. Win or loss?
Win for me, but I think what I hate about this matchup is we're going to have to see the highlights, right? Okay. Hail Murray. Yes, we know it happened. Get over it.
Yes.
We don't want to see it anymore. If you're going to show mandatory statement to all viewership. I don't know what channel this is on, if it's on CBS or whatever, but
it's a 1
CBS,
PM. 1 p.m. Yep.
There you go. CBS. So CBS mandatory. I'm making it mandatory. If you show the Hail Murray play, you must also put into context that Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen had a game-winning touchdown right before that. The Hail Murray never
should have happened.
Drive,
right? That was a great drive.
They had an extreme. Josh Allen drove that team down the field, had the win, had the touchdown, huge play, and the only thing people remember is the Hail Murray, and I hate that game for that reason. Because, again, that was one of those games where Josh literally did every freaking thing he could, and we still lost just on bad luck in that case. Just horrible. I hate hate seeing that. So you could call this a revenge game of sorts since Kyler Murray's healthy and expected to play. I mean, the Cardinals have a lot going on. They certainly improved this offseason. You get Marvin Harrison Jr., the best player by many people's standards in the draft. You got better, right, immediately. But their defense still leaves a lot of questions. They're new direction, there. So I just think this is a good
draft. Darius Robinson out of Missouri. He's a versatile player in the draft. Also added Justin Jones, who was with Chicago last year at defensive tackle. Jonah Williams from Cincinnati. A lot of people know him from the draft as well. Versatile lineman. Trey Benson and DJ Dallas at running back. So, again, does it move the needle a lot? It's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first game as a pro.
Exactly. You catch him early.
Moves the needle for them. But back to the Hail Murray real quick. Do you remember what year that's from?
Oh, Jesus. It's got to be more than, what year? So I'm trying to go back in my head now and see. So it was not the pandemic year, right? Because there were fans, right? So
it was 2020.
It was the pandemic season. Yeah. Oh, so there weren't fans.
All right, I saw that and I'm like, wow, that was a long time ago. And it feels
like
what
I was thinking. It was either
ago, not
4 years ago now. Yeah, that's where I was. I couldn't remember if it was or was not the actual pandemic season, but it was. So that 4 years ago now.
Okay, so all right, so we got the Bills at 1-0, and then we have a Thursday night game, prime time in Miami. What do you think? Win or loss?
So, I mean, going to Miami early, you always think about the heat and humidity. The benefit here is that it's a night game. And I think that is going to be all the difference. The other benefit is that I'm going to this game. So I think that means it'll be a win just because I want it to be. So, I mean, you play a division rival early in the season. They're going to pull out all the stops. We know that this is their Super Bowl, right? Especially for Miami. They like to beat a team early and think they're the best team in the NFL, and everybody praises them, and then they fall apart. We've seen it year after year with them. And this could be another case where if the Bills lose this game, I won't be taking it, as some extreme bad example of, oh my God, I can't believe we lost. But in my mind, you still have Josh Allen. He owns the Miami Dolphins. They need to prove they can beat him. As long as the defense is healthy, I think we have a lot more to counteract Miami. And their defense is also in flux. They're going to be, it's only week 2 of the season. I think that gives our offense a heads up. So, I think this will end up being a win. It's going to be competitive. It's a divisional matchup. But Josh Allen against Miami, I can't not predict a win.
Yeah, actually, I think that's going to be a loss for the Bills. Just because, like you said, this is the Miami Dolphins Super Bowl. They're going to pull out all the stops, right? They got all the play calling. I mean, Tyreek Hill will get his numbers. He's going to be healthy and fresh. And I think the Bills are still going to be figuring some things out early, right? I think they learned you don't got to rush early in the season. You don't want to get in too big of a hole like you did last year, but you don't want to pull all your best stuff out early, right? So I actually had this as a loss. I think they're going to split with Miami ultimately, but I'll put that down as a loss. So you have the Bills at 2-0. I have the Bills at 1-1.
I think, I mean, either way, the other factor I think I saw, what was it? Tua is something like 12-6 against the AFC East, and all 6 losses are against the Bills. So I mean, that tells
Josh doesn't like playing in Miami. Yeah,
it's rough.
All right, let's get into week 3. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars Monday Night Football, the 23rd of September. It's at 7:30 on ESPN. And this is a home game for Buffalo.
Man, something about this Jaguars team, right? Like,
it seems like they have the Bills number.
God,
I don't know what it is.
Always,
It's not like it's a flashy game. It's always it's the Bills making mistakes. There's a lot of it. Right?
I don't like that this game is early in the season. It would have been nice for them to come up when it was, cold. But and just their team in general seems to be better at the beginning of the season than they are at the end. They kind of falter as well, kind of like the Dolphins we were talking about. Man, I hate the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I very much think
the storyline for this game too is what? Mitch Morris, Gabe Davis.
Yes.
Jaguars also drafted Brian Thomas Jr., right? So there's a lot to like about this Jacksonville team.
Certainly. And again, on paper, it's very hard to just say. There's no way in my mind on paper you would say Jaguars are better than the Bills, right? So the Bills should win this game. That being said, I've got to put losses somewhere, and this is the first one where I'm like, crap, I don't like this matchup. So I think this was one that I'll, for now, say is a loss, even though I'm biting my tongue in doing so, because I still think the Bills are better in every way, shape, and form than the Jaguars are. So it's just one of those matchups where you have us losing to Miami. I'll say our first loss comes here against the Jaguars, even though I don't like it.
Yeah, actually, I put the Bills as a win on this one just because, they're going to remember last year and how they kind of got screwed going to London, right? The Bills probably feel like they're the better team. Also, coming off a loss in my world from Miami, extra time to prepare, right? That plays a factor as well. And I think the Bills, there's no better team in the NFL. It's better than preparing on a long weekend or time off, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And a Monday night game at that, so it's
prime time game, right? So I got 2-1 for the Bills. You also have the Bills at 2-1. All right, so then we get into Baltimore, the 29th, week 4, at Baltimore, 8:20 on NBC, Sunday Night Football.
Yeah. Another primetime game early in the season. So we had Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football. Now we've got Sunday Night Football. So it seems like we're getting them all out early this year, different times to start. But in terms of Baltimore, this team, yes, they're a good team. Like, there's no doubt about that. Yes, I expect this to be a competitive game. But the last I checked, Sean McDermott is the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. And Sean McDermott absolutely owns Lamar Jackson. Okay, he showed the entire league how to beat Lamar Jackson, the very first person to do so, and he's done it ever since. We didn't necessarily always win those games, but it wasn't because of Lamar. So containing Lamar is how you beat Baltimore, period. And I think Sean McDermott absolutely knows how to do that. So I have to call this one a win for the Bills.
All right, yeah, we're disagreeing a lot because I'm going to go loss here. Just like Baltimore's receiving core is very good, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can contain Lamar, and I think he showed last year that he can still win, right?
Sure.
And so I think what McDermott is going to try with the deception, the corner blitz, things like that, it's not going to work because I think Lamar's grown as a quarterback, right? I think he had a great year last year. I think that carries over, and then I just think the Bills, again, with the turnover and stuff, it's going to be a little bumpy early, in my opinion. I think they just lose this one. Tight game, highly competitive, in my opinion, but ultimately they lose. So I got the Bills at 2-2. You're at 3-1. All right, headed into week 5. Houston Texans, 1:00 game. It's at Houston on CBS. Stephon Diggs game.
Yeah. I hate this because you know, Eric, that I am a Texans fan as well, right? Like, I mean, I've told everybody when CJ Stroud was drafted, I said he is going to be NFL ready day one, more than Bryce Young, more than anybody else. I think he's going to take that team that has players that I've been lauding for years. That, Nico Collins, I've been giving him more credit than anybody has.
Yeah.
I said
you love their defense
going into their defense, like, they don't get the credit that they deserve. Going into last season, I said this is going to be the best team for me this year in terms of betting and picking. I love the Texans. I've become a pseudo fan of them. When I say fan, I'm a Bills fan through and through only, but I like them. And that's the problem here. I think this is a wild card game for sure for the Bills. We've never played CJ Stroud and this team. And, with the weapons they have, now they have Stephon Diggs. They're going to have some inside information. If I'm the Texans, I'm excited for this game. So I think this is one where the Bills could lose this game. So I'll call this one a loss, even though, again, on paper, there's no way you can make the argument that the Bills are not as good as the Texans, right? I think the Texans are being overhyped coming into this season. They're still a good team. They're still very good. They're still going to win games, but let's not put them in the Super Bowl conversation quite yet. They got to earn that, right? They got to get through their division. They've got to get through, into the contention with the AFC, prove that this wasn't a fluke, that they're good enough. I think they are, right? I'm a believer in the Texans, but I do not think they're going to be hoisted into the Super Bowl conversation quite yet. But give them a big win against Buffalo for me. Again,
okay, you're taking the side of Stephon Diggs. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna have. I think this is Josh Allen's best game of the year, right?
Oh,
and he'll deny it all. He's going to deny it all off season, leading up to this game. You're going to hear Diggs this, Diggs that, right? The relationship, all this BS. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen, when he has his best game, he can impact the scoreboard more than Stephon Diggs can, right? So I think that's going to be the result here. CJ Stroud, still a young quarterback, great historical rookie year. Does it carry over? We'll see, right?
McDermott's
doesn't always happen smoothly. You expect him to make a little jump, but I mean, I think Sean McDermott can dial up a good game plan against him because he's a young quarterback, and I think Josh Allen just explodes in this game to prove his point, right? So that's going to be really fun. This game's going to be a blast, but I think the Bills win this one. So we're both at 3-2. Headed into
pretty good.
Where we at? Week 6.
Here we go. The Jets on Monday Night Football again, right?
Yep,
so
Jets, October 14th, Week 6, 8:15 ESPN, Monday Night Football.
Good thing about this game is the Jets are coming from England, if I remember correctly, right? According to the international schedule, right? They play Week 5 in where do they play? In Germany or in England? They play one of the international.
It's England because Germany, I think, is late in the year.
Okay, so the Jets at Minnesota. Yep, and that's October 8th, or October 6th. So yes. So that's going to be, they play Minnesota in England. So that is going to be the week they're coming back to play Monday Night Football against the Bills. I love that advantage. I think that them traveling and coming back, they're going to have that bit of a hangover. But also, I've preached it from the offseason 2 years ago, right? Please, dear God, don't overhype the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers has a lot to prove. I wish he was healthy all last season so that he could show he was washed up and not good enough. Unfortunately for the New York Jets, they now have to go through it another year and show for themselves that even if he stays healthy, they're not good enough to compete in the AFC East, let alone in the AFC. So I am not scared of the Jets. I think this is a win for Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to take a win for Buffalo as well. I just think the Bills have been there, done that, and the Jets are there's always question marks, and there's always locker room problems. There's always media stuff, right? I just think the Bills are better, right? Mm-hmm. And I know the game Josh Allen had last year, Week 1, right, was a disaster. So I think that'll be in his memory, and again, won't make the same mistakes, right? Even just one less mistake in that game, the Bills beat them outright. But again, we'll see what Aaron Rodgers is. I think there's a lot of questions. He could be great. I mean, they have a ton of primetime games, the Jets do. So I think the NFL thinks he's going to last all year, but it really just remains to be seen.
They want him to
be the same guy or not.
Well, we'll see.
I'm betting no, like you. I'm betting no because he's 40.
Yeah.
He's not on TB12. I don't think
we saw him play. The last time we saw him play, he was going downhill. And I mean, it's not affecting his, well, I don't want to say that. It is affecting his legacy because he's going to be older and not as good, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he was once the guy in the NFL. And that's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he was the guy, the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, he's not that guy anymore. He just isn't. And no matter what he does, coming off a major injury now, he was already declining. There's nothing that says the Jets should be good. Nothing. And they keep getting it handed to them. There is no evidence that the Jets are going to be a good team. None.
Well, I mean, their roster's stacked. Their defensive roster is absolutely stacked. The defensive
line's
the deepest in the league.
Okay, Chargers. Why haven't the Chargers won 5 Super Bowls in 5 years then? They've statistically had the best roster in football for 5 years, and they can't even make the friggin' playoffs. So the Jets, don't tell me they have the best roster. They've got good players. Those players have to play together, and they don't. They have never proven that. So they have way, way too much to prove. No, they're not going to be good. So you
asked why do they get all the primetime games? I think that's why, right? It's the roster and the flashiness, right? There's a lot to like about their roster, but again, having problems putting it together, putting it on the field. Defense again was hot early last year, but
this could be primetime Tyrod Taylor. That might be who we see because they got 6 or 7 primetime games in their schedule, and might be seeing a lot of
Tyrod Taylor did sign with the Jets. I forgot.
Yes, he's their backup. So he might be who we see, and this would make a better storyline, him playing Buffalo again. So
yeah, I'm not sure if I want to play him.
I know, right? He might be a better option than Aaron Rodgers. It's just sad, but true.
Yeah. Sucks that Zach Wilson's gone. Anyway, we're both at 4-2, headed into week 7.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Let's see. Titans, October 20th.
It's
home
week 7.
in Buffalo, 1 p.m. CBS.
Yeah, I think being home is a good advantage here. The Titans will be better in my mind. I'm a Will Levis fan. I like what they've added pretty much freaking everything on that offense to support him. But I don't think they're quite ready to compete with a team like the Bills, right? Just well built, well managed, know what they're doing. So although I expect Tennessee to be more competitive, I don't know that that's going to translate to winning against big opponents, right? So I just think the Bills at home, that's a big advantage here. Give me a win.
All right, so we're both at 5-2. I'd take a win as well. I like Tony Pollard. Derrick Henry now signs with Baltimore. We didn't even mention that.
Yeah.
But that's another factor for Baltimore as well. But Tony Pollard, I mean, they took an offensive lineman, which they desperately needed. Outside of that, I think the receiving, Hopkins has been great, but is it Burks and the other guys they've drafted early just haven't really shown up yet, right? So it really all is
Calvin Ridley. I mean, now
Calvin Ridley
invested,
there,
right?
Yeah,
they've invested, so
yeah. So we'll see, and it's all on the shoulders of Will Levis,
correct?
And
are
they ready? Are they ready to go into Buffalo and play a team like the Bills though and win? I just don't see it.
Yeah.
At this point,
it's not going to be a blowout, but we'll beat them.
It is May, but all right, both at 5-2, headed into week 8. And the Bills have a 4:05 game at Seattle, West Coast, and that's on Fox.
Yeah, West Coast travel, usually difficult for teams. But again, I think Sean McDermott knows how to keep this team ready. Seattle, for me, is a team that's, I love their weapons. But with the coaching change, with the transition they're in, is Geno Smith their guy? They didn't really invest much behind that. So I just think that by this point, they're going to be really questioning what's going on in Seattle. And I think that's an advantage for the Bills. So I do think this will be a win.
I think this is going to be a really tight game, right? Seattle, there's a lot to like on defense.
Oh, yeah.
Witherspoon, now they have, I forget the running back, but still have DK Metcalf, still have Tyler Lockett there. Smith Najigba, who they drafted early last year. We'll see what that turns into. Usually there's a jump with rookies from year 1 to year 2. I think it's tight, but I think the Bills pull out a close one just because of the quarterback difference, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
like we don't know if
new coach
be healthy,
Don't know if that translates. So
there's a lot going on there to question. Right. Yeah.
Try not to be a homer, but we both have the Bills at 6-2. All right, week 9 rematch against Miami. This is in Buffalo, November 3rd.
Yeah.
1 p.m. game.
I had us beating them the first time on the road, so I have to have us beating them the second time at home. I just think again,
sweet Miami.
Yeah, I just think that Josh Allen owns the Dolphins, and especially in Buffalo. I am more worried about the week 2 game than I am this game in Buffalo. So I would count this as a win. A close game. It's divisional. It's competitive. I love that this is a rivalry again, and that, we actually have to think about these games. It's not like I think we're going to score 50 and they're going to score none, right? No, the offense they have generates points. We know that. But our defense is very good at limiting offenses. We saw it in action last year against this very team that was hyped up about scoring 70 points. They're not going to do that versus Buffalo. And we're going to be at home for this game. So that's why I'm more comfortable calling this one a win.
Okay, and I had Miami losing. I had the Bills losing to Miami in Miami. So, I'm going to have the Bills win this one at home. So, again, we're both 7-2 here. 7-2. You think this Bills team's...
that's a great start to the season. Again, you look at the schedule and you're like, wait a minute. 7-2. I thought maybe we'd have 3 losses in there. But it gives you a cushion, right? I'm not saying bet $1 billion that the Bills are going to be 7-2. No, it gives you the ability. Maybe you falter and you lose a game that you're not supposed to, like the Seahawks or the Titans or something. You have the cushion to say, okay, that's not going to impact where we stand now moving forward.
All right, yeah. Both 7-2 going into week 10. Play the Colts. It's at the Colts, 1 p.m. CBS.
Yeah, this one for me is also a win. Assuming that Anthony Richardson gets to play, the Colts can do a lot. They can generate. They're going to be a fun team to watch, I think. But they're just young, and again, a young team, a fresh quarterback facing a Sean McDermott defense and an offense that's led by Josh Allen. I mean, that's too much to overcome. So I think the Bills get this win too.
And then we've seen the Bills just struggle against the run versus the Colts. I mean, Jonathan Taylor just literally just runs them over. We'll see if that carries over, right? Kind of a lot of new personnel on defense for the Bills. So, will they have the same identity where they kind of struggle against the run at times? Don't know, right? So it's up in the air. But I think
to be determined.
Colts could pull this one off in that scenario. But again, like you said, we don't really know what Anthony Richardson is, right? We know he's the most physically gifted quarterback, next to Josh Allen, right? The same measurables, things like that. Huge arm. Can he put it together is the big question. I think he could, right? He's a super young guy, but again, the odds are against him, right? Here we are. We're going to know who Anthony Richardson is during this game, but we already know who Josh Allen is. So I'm going to take a win here. So both 8-2. Headed into week 11 and game of the year, right? It's Kansas City in Buffalo, November 17th.
Yeah.
And that one's 4:25 on CBS.
Another one I have circled that I'm really hoping to go to, although this one might be a little more difficult because Taylor Swift is expected to attend, right? 4:25 on a Sunday, even though Taylor Swift has concerts where? In Toronto the 3 days before this, but not on Sunday. So she will be in attendance for the game, most likely. And the NFL wanted it that way. They came out today and said, oh, that's just coincidence. Again, NFL, we're not freaking stupid. Just say it. The NFL generates more when she's able to go to the games. Of course, we wanted her to be able to go to this game where she's going to be less than, right up the road in Toronto and could walk to the game, for God's sake. But I just think, this matchup, it is a game of the year. It's what, though? It's the regular season. And what have we seen in the regular season? The Bills consistently beat Kansas City in the regular season. They're good, competitive, fun matchups, but the Bills win. So I think regular season, we're going to see at least phase one of the same storyline play out. The Bills match up well against Kansas City in the regular season. So give me a win here.
All right, so you have the Bills at 9-2. I'm actually going to make this one a loss, right?
Okay.
I think Pat Mahomes will have this one circled on the calendar. He's already talked about how the Bills fans hate him. They're the villain. They're absolutely the villain this year as well.
They are.
Right? So I think he's gonna buy into that role. And then this is going to be the Kansas City show, right? Taylor Swift in the audience. This is the big game for them, right? And then they won last year. I think they carry momentum. I think, because the Bills beat them in Arrowhead, I just feel like Kansas City's going to come to Buffalo and embarrass them like they always do.
They've never been to Buffalo. I mean, come on. They're playing in our house.
Game. Right.
Yeah.
But they did play there, and they beat the Bills.
Correct.
Right?
But in the regular season now.
But for regular season, the Bills
usually them in Arrowhead.
Right, you're right. So I think Kansas City looks at that and goes, they beat us in our house. Let's go there, beat them in their house. And also, you can't pick the Bills to win every game.
I know, that's true, right? It's tough. It's tough because right now every team is 17-0. Every team thinks they're going 17-0. It can make an argument. You can make an argument that every team, we're going to beat this game and this is how we're going to do it. 17-0, baby. But, the reality is the Bills are, without a doubt, blindfolded, a top 5 team in the NFL. And I'm sick of the slander. I said that after the draft. I went on a rant on Built in Buffalo stream for the draft. I said, look, this team is damn good. We are competitive, so stop it with the nonsense and the hate and the downtrodden, this team, wide receiver bull crap. This team is a Super Bowl contender by any standard whatsoever. So the window closing, I hate that conversation. We shouldn't even be having it or addressing it. That's dumb talk, okay? This team is damn good, and we're seeing it play out right now through looking at the schedule, because even if you lose 2 or 3 more of these games than what we're saying right now, the Bills are still really good and in good position.
Yeah,
so
I
yes,
have the Bills
if the
at
Bills lose this
8-3.
game,
You have them at 9-2.
If the Bills, that's insane. I wouldn't have said 9-2 off the top of my head just looking at the schedule, but we're going through it here. And the thing with this game, if the Bills lose this game, it's not really going to affect anything for me. Okay. You lost to Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Great. Now you have to beat them when it counts in the postseason.
Yeah, that's the Achilles heel right now, right? It's Kansas City standing in your way. Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, bye week, right? Week 12. What's the date on that one? No date given. All right, next, building a bright future. And then prime time San Francisco, December 1st, week 13. That is also a primetime game, Sunday Night Football, NBC.
Yeah, San Francisco, again, West Coast team traveling to the East Coast, but it's a Sunday night game. I think that gives them a little bit of an advantage, even though they're coming east. Bills are coming off the bye. I think Sean McDermott is like a ridiculous record versus the bye. Is he undefeated after the bye? I don't know, but he has a very, very good record after the bye. However, this is one of those games where I feel like strategy-wise, defense, you think San Francisco, you think good defense, you think run game, they manage well. This could be a trap game for me, I think, and I'm going to say that this is a loss for me. But, again, favorite when it comes down to it, I'm going to make every argument that the Bills will win the game, but I'm going to say this is a loss for me for now.
All right, so you're going to 9-3. I'm also putting this as a loss. There's just not as much experience on the Bills roster anymore, right? You're relying on a lot of young people, rookies included, as we know. So I think, San Francisco, extremely well coached. They're very disciplined. Brock Purdy's very, very disciplined. So if you try to throw disguises in there, things like that, I think he beats you. So yeah, I like San Francisco for this one. It's just tough for the Bills. You got to play both, the Super Bowl teams from last year back to back, almost back to back. We have the bye week, but yeah, I'm going to put this as a loss. So I'm at 8-4. You're at 9-3. All right, week 14, traveling to LA, December 8th. And that is 4:25 on Fox.
I already spoke a little bit about this. I think that this is a more favorable matchup for the Bills in a lot of ways. We spoiled their Super Bowl celebration, right? The last time they played. So maybe they have some ill will toward the Bills and will be a little up for this game. I like the Rams as a roster, as a team. Sean McVay, you can never count them out of anything. We made that mistake, the NFL in general, not me. But I think that overall, again, the Bills, they're, in my mind, are just a better team. The Rams are going to be in a place where they're still a good team, but not quite as dominant. So I think this matchup favors the Bills. So I'm going to call this one a win.
All right, you're going win. I'm going win as well. Just West Coast. It's the LA thing's really nice. Josh Allen's from that area. I think he's closer to San Francisco, but kind of close to LA as well. So you expect the family to be there and stuff, right? And the Rams losing Aaron Donald. You look at it and go, who else do we have to worry about here? I know they have some young players. They did draft defense. But again, like you're looking around, it's really just Matt Stafford. I'm really just scared of Sean McVay, right? But I think the Bills, personnel-wise, match up really well with the Rams. So I'm going to put a win.
Exactly. I do like that matchup.
All right, so 9-4 for me. You are 10-3. All good?
Yep.
All right, week 15 at the Detroit Lions, December 15th, 4:25 game.
Such a good matchup.
And this is CBS as well. Yeah, this will be a really fun game.
This is fun. Yeah, I mean, that's why I want to go to this game. I just think coaching-wise, it's a great matchup. Quarterback-wise, it's a good matchup, right? Everything about this game is exciting to me. I love the offensive weapons that the Lions have. The run game they have is good. Obviously, the pass game. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got all these guys who are just so. It's a good team, and it's very parallel to the Buffalo Bills in my mind in a lot of ways. The fact that their head coach is this passionate, over the top, we're biting kneecaps, and our head coach is this run of the mill, do it every day, clap, clap, clap kind of guy. It's
terrorist.
Yeah. Well, oh God,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
But I mean, it's just I love this matchup. I think it's going to be one of the most fun games of the year. I'm going to call it a loss actually because we're going to their field. They're a good team. They can't be overlooked. Again, come down to it. I will, during the season, give you every reason why the Bills will crush the Lions. But right now, for the sake of the schedule and the fact that, this is a good team and we're playing them on the road, we'll call this one a loss.
Yeah, this is a coin flip game, right? I think it was Thanksgiving, not last year, but 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that game was really down to the wire. That was such back and forth scoring. It really came down to Josh Allen making an incredible throw and Diggs making an incredible catch, right?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Very fun. And then you hit the long field goal at the end. And that's what's going to take in this type of game. So I'm going to put this one as a loss as well. I just think Detroit, it's like the Spider-Man meme, right? Looking in the mirror and you're seeing the same exact team as you on the other side, right? So a coin flip game, and I'll give that coin flip to Detroit.
Walter gives a comment here. The team with the most claps wins. That one made me
yeah.
That's good. That's good.
We win all 17-0. So I'm at 9-5. You have the Bills at 10-4, headed into Week 16.
Don't
and
skip.
It's the New England
right?
Patriots.
Free pass, win. There's nothing about that team that I think, and barring another hurricane game where ridiculous stuff happens, and to even the playing field, they're not ready to compete with a team like Buffalo. They would have to play Super Bowl caliber and beyond. Now, we saw a fluke win by the Patriots over the Bills a couple years ago, and okay, that happens. But I just last year, with a rookie quarterback, I don't see them doing that. We saw the hurricane game 2 years ago. So, that was, again,
even with a rookie quarterback, he's got to be better than Mac Jones.
Very true.
Right out the gate.
Mac Jones did beat us, but yeah. I just don't see that happening again, especially down the stretch, right? This is a key game. This first one's in Buffalo. There's no chance, I don't think, for New England in this game. The second game, if you want to say, okay, now we're on the road and they've seen us once and maybe they've learned something and the rookie's got his energy going in the right way, maybe. But I don't see it happening either way. So.
Yep. So I'm putting this one as a loss as well.
Loss?
Or I mean a win.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, huh?
Yeah,
what?
My bad.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm at 10-5, and you're at 11-4 for the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Patriots they're super young. I think their entire draft was offense. I don't think they took one defensive player. Right. So it's like they needed that about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're just kind of building the foundation on offense. And it's an offensive league, right? And I think they got the quarterback right. I like Drake May, but I don't think it happens this year. I think it's 2 to 3 years to see anything from him. And the same thing for those receivers. I think they took Javon Baker. They took another receiver. But again, it's going to be a long build for them or long growth. I expect to see them some flashes late in the year, this upcoming season. But again, I don't think Bills will be playing for playoff contentions and winning the division. I just don't think the Patriots are ready for that. All right, next one. Week 17, and this one is the New York Jets in Buffalo, 1 p.m. CBS.
Yeah, one thing we didn't talk about is that Jets defense, they're legit. Like, they are good, and they do give Josh Allen fits. But this late in the season, again, that Sean McDermott coach team, this is the stretch where you should be patting on. So to me, that's a win.
Okay. So you have the Bills at 12-4. I'm actually going to put it at a loss. Like I said, defense for the Jets is good enough to win games. Saw it last year. So being cautious, I'm going to have them split with Miami and split with the Jets.
Come on now.
So at home, puts the Bills at 10-6.
You're having us lose to the Jets at home.
I mean, there's going to be a team in there where it's a coin flip, right? You're going to lose that coin flip. Sure. Why not the Jets?
Sure.
Why not?
You got to have a couple of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So throw that in there. I'm at 10-6. You're at 12-4.
12.
All right. And finishing the season, TBD, Week 18 versus the Patriots. Drake May versus Josh Allen.
Well, we've already reached my magic number of 12, which is what I said you're automatically competitive. You're probably winning your division. You might be the 1 seed. And to close out against New England, I have to call this a win, barring any circumstance where the Bills have already locked things up and, the backups are all playing. To me, this is a win. So,
all right. So you got the Bills at the end of the season, 13 wins, 4 losses.
Yeah, I think that is legitimate to have them in that standing. 11 to 13 wins to me is absolutely reasonable. If somebody told me the Bills are going to win 14, I'm like, okay, you're optimistic, but it could happen. Yes. If
so in your opinion, is that
win 10, then I'm like, whoa, you better.
Does that win the AFC?
Yes. Oh, the AFC.
Yeah. Do they get the number 1 seed with 13 wins? I think Baltimore had 13 wins last year, right?
I was going to say, yes. So it's pretty close to that. So, yes, in my mind, that 13 would do it because the North is going to be more competitive. The South is going to be pretty competitive in my mind.
Right. Well, the Bills were the 2 seed at wins, keep in mind, right? So if you get to 13, you got to be number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think it's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that 11, 12, 13 wins is really important, especially when you get the only one team gets a bye week in the wild card.
Correct.
Plus home field advantage throughout. That's just so huge. All right, and I finished 11-6 like last year, which I feel good about. I actually feel very comfortable with that because I do think it's kind of they turn the roster over and it's the first year again, right? A lot of new people. So you're building that chemistry back up. And I think getting 11 wins out of a season like that is a testament to the coaching, getting the rookies up and developed, right? Getting Kincaid to make that big jump we all expect. So I feel good about that. I mean, my losses, let me read them off here. Baltimore, Miami, Kansas City, San Francisco, Detroit, and the Jets. I feel great about all those losses, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
I don't think there's any. The problem is it's hard to predict upsets, and there will be some.
Correct.
And there'll be some where the Bills upset a team, right? But from a prediction standpoint, I feel good about.
So the only one I had that you didn't was the Jags, right? I had us losing to the Jags. You had us losing to Miami early.
Yep.
I had us beating the Jets. You have us losing to the Jets.
Yep. That's it. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and really, it's Aaron Rodgers' health.
So you think about it. If we lost all the games that we both predicted could be losses, that's still a 12-win team. So I mean, that's a really good place.
Well, what is the AFC East, right? Is it a weaker division? Is it a stronger division? We thought it was going to be super competitive last year, but it's relatively weak with a team like New England and the Jets, like without Aaron Rodgers, right?
Exactly. So when you look at it that way, objectively, the Patriots have gotten better, no doubt, right? They're better. They're not one of the worst teams in the NFL right now.
Right.
Well, they might still be, but they're still better than last year.
Right.
The Jets,
it's more about shifting.
Aaron Rodgers is healthy. Boom. Their expectations are higher. I don't think they're necessarily better, but their expectations are definitely higher.
Yeah. I think expectations are high for them. Getting the primetime games, like that didn't disappear. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Miami, par for the course. They are a good team. They're competitive. They have to get over the hump, but they're competitive. So I do think
Miami's really interesting to me. I feel like Miami did a lot of the same plays last year. It's the slants, in the seam, the middle of the zone, right? And then that's the stretch runs, off tackle runs. I feel like teams kind of figured that out late in the year for them. So like, what are they going to do next, right? Because I feel like they're kind of limited on offense with their personnel. So it'll be really interesting. Are they going to still be a competitive team, or are they going to take a step back? It's kind of where I'm looking. They lose Christian Wilkins, which was huge for them. Still have outstanding cornerbacks. They're still a good team overall, but are they? We were talking about them being the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. I don't think that'll be a conversation for Miami. Any other thoughts?
The Bills are a good team, no matter how you break it down, right? I mean, okay, you could say, oh, we're crazy for thinking the Bills could win 13 games. Okay. You could say, oh, you're a homer for saying the Bills win 13 games. Okay, you do it. Go ahead. Go through the schedule and show me where the Bills don't win 11 games. Okay. Say the Bills start bad, 3-3. No matter how you go through the schedule, the Bills are going to end up where they belong, winning the AFC East, hosting games into the playoffs, possibly competing for the number 1 seed. And I think that's what it comes down to for the NFL, for the way we saw the schedule shake out. Obviously, the Bills get primetime games. This is still that good of a team. So we need to see it put together for sure. We need to see the gelling, the changes that have been made on both sides of the ball. It's got to happen, but I still feel confident in that much. It's not a homer take to say the Bills are going to win 13 games to be the number 1 seed. It's a reasonable, real take based on what we're seeing in front of us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, it really comes down to the division. Got to win those games. Got to beat New England twice, right? Which the Bills don't always do. Right? They don't do that a lot. They didn't do it last year. So, but those are important. Also, external factors. What's Baltimore doing? Is Joe Burrow back? Pat Mahomes will do his thing, right? Which team's going to come out of nowhere and surprise everybody in the AFC? You see it every year. So, what will that be? But that's it.
Yeah,
feeling good.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to, right? It's fun to go through it now. We'll go through it again come September and say, okay, where are we at with these teams? What moves have been made? What moves the needle? But it's a great exercise to do now and see it in action. And this is the first time. I didn't come in with any biases saying like, oh, I think the Bills need to be at 13 or 12 or whatever. I said 12 was the magic number, and I still hold to that. 12 will make you compete for the 1 seed without a doubt. And I think that's the goal. Ultimately, you get to 12, you feel comfortable. So, so the Bills are good. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
can't wait for the season to start.
When you have a franchise quarterback, that alone, if it stays consistent and high statistics, high scoring, you have a chance to win a lot of games. So that should be the expectation every year with Josh Allen, right? That carries over. But anyway, thanks for tuning in with us. Catch us again next week, 7:30. Thursday night on Built in Buffalo. Again, going to be breaking down the roster, getting into all these off-season topics, any news that breaks. Expect post-June 1st, we'll have some news that we can break down, but We'll go from there. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for kicking it with us. Go Bills.